He's the opposite of an imposter. He's Craig
Foster! Good morning, Craig. Now, we've had many authors on this show, many guests on this show. A lot of ex-service people, a lot of ex-SAS people, the odd Navy SEAL. But none of them, from what I've read of their stories, has come close to death more often than you have. It's just something you do, isn't it?
In the early days, I was should have been a lot more cautious, but now I'm much more careful.
Yeah, but nevertheless, you have stared death in the face many, many times, literally in the face, because it's been, there've been other creatures involved. Chapter 6 is called Fear. Living with fear, your son's fear, your own fear, your wife's fear of the water. Just tell us a bit about that, if you don't mind. Swati's with us today.
Yeah, wonderful to have her here. So we actually met in Bristol, believe it or not, about 17, 18 years ago at the film festival there. And then have had this incredible life together. But she had this terrifying experience as a very young child, almost drowned. So she was just terrified of any water. So it took about 10 years of gentle coaxing, and now she swims in the open ocean with me and dives with me. But it was a hell of a process to get her through that tremendous fear of the water. And in fact, the big animals is how I got her in the water. She had no fear of sharks or any big predators because she'd worked with tigers and lions all her life. So I got her in, coaxed her in with those beautiful big animals. It was the fear of the water itself.
Yeah. So once again, you had a little teacher from nature, or a bigger teacher with you.
Exactly.
It's so funny because you talk in the book about the difference between our relationship with land animals and animals in the sea because of how they regard us. Can you speak to that a bit, please?
Yeah, what's amazing is, animals on land, especially in Africa, have had 1 million years to see the human being, that upright primate, as a really terrifying creature and dangerous. But people haven't been in the water for anywhere near that long. So I've, for instance, I've took my son when he was 9 years old to dive with 40 big cow sharks. That each one of those animals is the size of a lion. Now imagine taking your child of that age into a pride of lions. You'd have no chance. But we were quite safe diving with those big sharks, and he was absolutely fearless because he'd grown up doing that and knew how to move in the water. But it's very much, you've got to get your body language right. You can't have muscle tension or fear or anything. You've just got to be relaxed.
Oh my gosh. Talking again, you just said about 3 things, and I have 50 questions about each thing you just said right now. Talking about muscles, right? Is it true that some people, some human beings, can feel the presence of a lion in their muscles?
Wow, that's an interesting one.
Talk about trackers who can feel.
Yes, no, I get it. No, so in the early days when we were tracking in the central Kalahari, I had this incredible mentor, Ngate, who's a master tracker, and he could somehow feel the different animals as sensations in his body, not so much his muscles, but almost on the skin. So he'd feel a tingling in his chest, and he'd know a lion was near. And we kind of didn't believe this at first, but every single time he was correct. Now, whether his whole subconscious is picking up all the acoustic information in the environment. So whether it's completely intuitive, or that he's actually been able to pick it up scientifically, is hard to know. But his accuracy was extraordinary.
And the fact that human beings we've been given this other intelligence, the difference, we talk about it a lot on the show, the basic 3 differences between us and lots of other species are we're given memory, we're given imagination, and we're given, linguistics. Can it be a double-edged sword? It could be nature's joke on us because we may have left our real intelligence behind, perhaps.
Definitely. If you think about it, imagine early people having relationships with hundreds, if not thousands, of animals and plants, complex relationships, and knowing thousands of these subtle signs and be able to survive in this extraordinary world. Compare that to a person today who has a relationship with a phone, a computer, and maybe, a few people. and then make all those connections and come up with your own conclusions. It's very different.
They say that if you're a born again biker, so lots of blokes couldn't afford the motorbike they wanted as a kid. So when they get older, they have some money and they buy this bike, and they shouldn't really because it's too powerful for them and they haven't ridden one for ages. And they say one of the things you shouldn't do when you're learning to ride a bike is, look where you want to go, don't look where you don't want to go, because if you look at it, you'll hit it. And a phone is similar in a way. Look at it and you'll miss everything else because your focus is on that and you lose your peripheral vision. And in fact, our natural panorama has reduced via, I call it devolution, not evolution, because we're getting worse, not better. And again, you can redevelop that, can't you, if you want to?
Absolutely. So, I mean, we've got that 3 million years of evolution sitting inside of us. That wild person just waiting to come out and remember and, all these extraordinary things.
And that's who we really are.
Exactly. I mean, this new stuff is, it's not who we are. It's just a veneer. It's wonderful, and science and all the comforts and the wonderful coffee you're having now. It's beautiful, and this, incredible studio. It's powerful, but it's completely imbalanced. We need that wild person to come back and give us some balance.
Yeah, and when we see places that we haven't rewilded but are rewilded, like I always think about Chernobyl, for example, where nature's just not repossessed the whole land, hasn't it?
It's extraordinary.
Very quickly as well.
Extraordinary story there. I mean, it's regenerated at a level that you can't believe, and it's just even in that radioactive environment.
Yeah,
you're getting incredible
reclamation,
return of biodiversity.
Where's the place you've been to recently that is as most of the planet was thousands of years ago?
Yes. So that's an island about 3,000 miles off East Africa, to the north of the Seychelles, and it's a near pristine environment. So when you go there, it's just incredible.
It's teeming.
It's teeming with animals. Like if you throw a stone into the water, small sharks just come immediately to that stone. And just further out there, manta rays in trains, turtles surfacing everywhere, birds just blocking out part of the sun. The reef is just teeming. You can't see the reef for at times. It's
uplifting / heartbreaking.
Exactly. So it has that incredible uplifting feeling. It changes the whole way you think. So after being there for a month, you feel like uplifted for maybe 6 months, and at the same time absolutely heartbreaking because you realize the entire planet used to look like that.
In the end, nature will have her way because she always does. And it's not so much save the planet, save ourselves, because the planet will recover. There's no question.
Absolutely.
You agree with that, don't you?
Totally. Yeah.
I mean, you're far more qualified than I am to comment on that. But in this process, there are clues around us all the time. Your program, My Octopus Teacher, you talk about octopi and about their intelligence. Is it octopi or octopuses?
No, it's octopuses.
It is octopuses. Yeah. Why do we say octopi?
Well, I think it's naturally because of the Latin, but it's not actually a word.
Right, so octopuses. I knew there's something going on there.
It's a better word, nicer word, but unfortunately it's not correct.
You start one of the passages in your book saying, I've met hundreds of octopuses. I don't really who could say that? Well, you can say that. And you talk about their intelligence, about their 8 arms, and about the 2,000 suckers on the arms, and the fact that each one of those has a different palate and a different smell and a different sensation to touch, and the fact that an octopus can change its colour to whatever it wants to, whenever it's most useful to do that. And then if you read that and you understand that and you watch your film and you read your book, it's no surprise then that they can come and play with us when they choose to. And steal your wife's ring. Is that a true story?
Absolutely.
What happened there?
I mean, that was quite a long time ago, way before My Octopus Teacher. I'd made her this beautiful ring from a springbok's horn. It took me ages, and I wove silver into it and everything. And then we were in the water, in the shallows, before she learned to dive and swim, and she just had her hand there. And of course, this curious animal put its arms over the hand, and the next minute we looked, the ring was gone, and took it, and we couldn't get it back.
So there's no pickpocket like an octopus. I don't think so, do you? Oh wow! I mean, if you're a little decent at being a pickpocket with chums, you get a show in Vegas. You get a residency in Vegas. Bring on the octopus.
Yes.
I mean, nature, she isn't cynical. I don't think she's cynical. She may be skeptical, but do you think she's just playing with us? Because you seem to, when you engage with various species, you personally, and other stories, but you particularly, nature seems to come meet you halfway, and either join you in the dance or lead you in a new dance. Can you speak to that?
I mean, when you say that, I think what I'm thinking is, initially you feel like you're saying nature's there and us humans are here.
But we are nature.
Yeah, so exactly. So that's what we forget.
Sorry.
No, it's good that you say that, because that's what happens when we're not connecting on a daily basis. And I often feel like that too, don't worry. I feel separate. But these are amazing moments of grace when you've spent hours in the presence of these incredible animals, and they teach you that we are actually inseparable. We are nature. Our bodies are nature. Every cell of our body is built from wild nature. So we're literally an embodiment of that great flaring forth 13.7 billion years ago. Wow. And all the animals, all the amphibians, all the insects, and all the invertebrates, they are our ancestors that make up who we are. So we're literally woven in a fundamental way.
So they're all our teachers.
Exactly.
Yeah. You have a chapter called Connection. The whole book is brilliant. The way it's written is brilliant. It's so captivating. The first 3 pages are like a movie. One of the movies you haven't made, because you've made lots of movies. Obviously, you would have made more than one movie before My Octopus Teacher, because I'm so stupid. I'm so ridiculously sort of linear in my thought process, which is beautiful. It's a bit like being a goldfish, but it's completely useless when it comes to a purview of somebody else's career. But looking back at and reading your book, you started, you fell in love with filmmaking, and not only has the sea nearly killed you, various beasts nearly killed you, but your filmmaking nearly killed you as well, didn't it? Because are you addictive? Are you obsessive? What's going on with you there with the movies?
So
how exhausted were you?
Yeah, no, entirely exhausted. So I mean, I think a lot of filmmakers will connect with this. That you get a story, and you're absolutely obsessed with it, and you just run that as hard as you can, and then as you get to the end of it, you totally burnt out, and then you have to recover, and then that cycle starts again. Yeah. So I mean, I made 25 films with my brother over 25 years, long form, incredible adventures. But it was very, very exhausting.
You made 3 crocodile films?
Yes.
Back to back?
Yes, yeah.
This is amazing.
And also, we in South Africa, as an independent filmmaker, we used to go through hell of a lean time. So when you got a project, you made sure you did it, and you did it to your best of it, because you didn't know if you were going to get another one. So that's also not so good. And then I thought, no, this is enough now. And that's when I thought I want to get inside of wild nature. Yeah. And I try to stop filmmaking completely.
And you felt immediately less anxious, and you still feel like that, don't you?
Yes. I mean, I don't always get it right. Get me, but it's much better now. I'm able to moderate that in a far easier way. This is a better way of existing for me.
And then success, with unexpected success, enormous success, the more beyond your dreams, with winning an Academy Award. Congratulations. Control round of applause, please, for Craig's Academy Award. Thank you. I know, and some. And then hundreds of millions of people have seen what you do and recognise who you are because you're in the movie yourself, and you couldn't be more uncomfortable.
I was incredibly uncomfortable.
You idiot.
I was. See, the last thing you expect. You're on the edge of the world there. You maybe think 5 people will be interested in what you're doing. The very last thing any of us expected. So it was absolute shock, and it took me about a year or 2 to recover.
And again, it really troubled you, didn't it?
Yeah, I know.
Physically troubled you.
No, I mean, I don't know if you've had this, but I mean, I think going from 0 to that is a very difficult. And a lot of other people I've spoken to have got Academy Award and so on have struggled tremendously. So it's not just me, I think.
Where is your award?
It's actually, we had a fire, the house burnt down. So the award is absolutely charred. But it looks quite beautiful and organic now. And it's in storage because we're still rebuilding the house.
Do you have a thread, one of your threads, a god rope? to your Academy Award.
Not really.
Tell us about your God ropes.
So that's a very interesting, crazy idea. But so the idea of ropes to God comes from the San trackers, and what they do from very early. So when they go out into the wild, when they see a small animal, a bird, a mammal, whatever, they make these threads to them. They connect with these animals and they understand them at the deepest level. They know their tracks, they know their behaviors. And eventually all those threads weave together in what they call this rope. And then that rope is the connection to this divine force of creation. And that's what they use for their healing practice, the great healing dance, the trance dance that's 80, 90,000 years old.
And this is something we can practice. I tried it last night in the garden.
Oh, awesome.
Yeah, I just started to connect things up. And it's just a very reassuring sensation.
It can easily be done. And essentially it's like just having a bit of love for these incredible creatures, and especially when you realize that biodiversity, this, for me, the most precious thing on this planet, is allowing us to breathe and eat from second to second.
Yeah.
That mother, which is all these plants and animals, is keeping us alive. So it's not hard to develop this love for them.
Biodiversity is your number one thing, isn't it? What do you want to say about that?
I mean, that is the most critical thing. And what I want to say is that, we desperately need as a species to put our focus onto the one thing that is most critical for our future survival. The way we interact, regenerate, look after what I call the mother of mothers, which is all the plants and animals on this planet and all their interactions, that is the fundamental thing that will determine how our children will survive and if we will survive as a species. So what I'm asking is for us to put more attention, more money, more energy towards looking after that most precious thing that we will ever come across.
And your wife came up with a very helpful title for a particular part of the world that's been adopted, hasn't it? Like it's been around forever.
Yeah. She named the Great African Sea Forest, which is our 1,000 kilometer kelp forest, which is this incredible biodiversity hotspot. So these places of biodiversity are kind of these reservoirs of hope for the planet, because if we can just look after them and then, leave other places alone, they will repopulate these areas, and that's what we so desperately need.
Yeah.
This infinite capitalism story has to stop. I mean, it's just
it will stop one way or another.
It will stop. The planet will stop.
The thing is, we might stop with it.
That's the problem.
Yeah.
So we need to, before the planet puts a hard stop on us. It is.
We are insane, aren't we? We're just insane. I'm reading your book, right? I'm on holiday, and then I'm finishing off on the plane flying back from Portugal yesterday, and I'm reading your book, and I turned to my wife, and I made a noise. I don't know what the noise was. She said, "What's the matter?" I said, "Oh, I'm reading Craig's book," and what happened is we'd just been served our meal, and on our meal there was a tray. Don't need a tray to eat food. And on the tray was a little bowl with some of our meal in it, a porcelain bowl. And then there was a plate with some more of our meal in it. And then there was another bowl with some more of our meal in it. There were all these bowls and this little bit of food in these bowls, which most people left anyway, And then there was some cutlery wrapped up in a needless serviette, a napkin. And none of this is necessary at all. And then I looked up and I saw the emergency exit signs. The emergency exit signs to save our life because we've built a plane that we might get killed in. Do you know what I mean? This is because of your book. I'm like, we are insane. We think we're so clever, and we are innocently stupid as a species. Don't get me wrong, we've achieved some amazing things, And by the way, let's crack on and have as much joy in our lives as possible. I'm an eternal optimist, but all the buts as well. Caveat all the buts.
No, I mean, I couldn't agree with you more, but I think there is still a lot of hope, because there, inside that incredibly clever moron is somebody who knows how to live with the wild.
Yeah.
We know how to be in reciprocity. It's just we've been thrown off. A lot of animals, if you put them into the kind of pressurized environments we've been pressurized into, would also react badly.
Yeah.
So I think at heart we are actually incredible species.
Yeah. If you put the animals into those environments, they would react badly. The crazy thing is we created the environments. That's the difference, isn't it? And put ourselves in it voluntarily. And we can walk out at any point. You talk about studying a tree, journaling a tree, studying wildlife, tracking in your own garden, tracking your own city, tracking on your own commute to work. It's brilliant. The last chapter is all about how to track. It's an amazing book, Amphibious Soul, Finding the Wild in a Tame World, with Craig Foster, who's talking to us now. Craig, once again, I find it incredible that you're still alive to talk about this, to write the book and here to talk about it, because you have nearly lost your life so many times. I mean, your father saved your life how many times, would you say, approximately?
2 or 3 times. Yeah.
From the sea?
Yeah.
So your dad, your mum is a saintly, kindly soul, and your dad is a real life Superman. Is that about right?
He's quite old now, but
he's 80 odd, isn't he? But he really,
I mean, tell
us a bit about your dad and about the times he saved. And didn't he regularly save other people on a daily basis?
He saved a few people, absolutely, because we used to live in this crazy little wooden bungalow, and half the house was below the high water mark. So when the big storms came in, my parents used to rush around and put up these boards, because otherwise the windows would be smashed in. And we were right there, and it was, the Cape of Storms is highly volatile, these huge currents. But we grew up, and he grew up, diving and swimming in that environment. And we often used to get people drowning, and then he'd just swim out, pull them back. And I remember him, pumping the water out of them and coming back to life.
One guy, he was basically almost dead, wasn't he?
Yeah, he was just lying on the bottom.
So he's lying on the bottom of the ocean. He drags him out. He then physically holds him upside down.
That's correct,
like you would, like a marlin or something. You would, showing off a prize marlin. Holds him upside down, empties the water out of his lungs, and then gives him mouth to mouth.
Yeah.
And brings him back to life.
Yeah. No, that used to happen. I mean, not that often, but he certainly saved quite a few people. And he was a very powerful swimmer.
And he still swims?
Yes, I still go with him, and he's very resistant to the cold, no wetsuits and so on.
So he's it's fair enough to say he's a hero to you, and you try and be similar, but in a different way with your own son. And you go swim regularly with your son. You still have a close relationship with your son. He helps you out with young people stuff.
So there's a series of short films that's connected to that book, 27 short films that has a QR code in there, in the book, so you can connect and then watch the stories. If you want to watch the crocodile diving, you go in there. And my son did most of the sound and music for that, so we work closely together. He's only 22, but he's very good with all that stuff and experience. So we swim together, we work together. He recorded the audio book for me, so it's a great blessing. Nature bonds you in a way with your child. We've been through incredible adventures together, Tom, my son, and I.
Yeah.
So it bonds you in a way that's, it's just such a blessing.
It's funny, isn't it? Obviously we don't have as natural a lifestyle as you do with our family, but we try and get out there. We spend 28 days on the beach in the summer every day, and we do whatever else we can. But we always find, whether it's nature or whether it's playing paddle tennis or football or going running with our kids, to try and help them mentally, it's always best to do it physically.
Absolutely. I mean, the body has so much intelligence, and it knows so much more than we think. I mean, all you have to do is take these trackers and you see how they're using their physical body to follow animals, almost like a radar system. And the Polynesian, the great voyagers, the open ocean navigators. I'd love to just quickly tell a story of Papa Mao. I mean, my great friend Nainoa Thompson, who navigated around the whole world without instruments. His mentor, Papa Mao, used to lie in the hull of the sailing canoe asleep. And if Nainoa went half a degree off course, his body would wake him up and he'd shout up to Nainoa. I mean, that's how good our human bodies are.
Yeah. Hang on a minute, he's sleeping on the job. It doesn't matter. Even when he's sleeping, he's working. Craig, we're out of time. It's great. Your book is great. You're a great human being. It's great to have. It's an honor to have. We're so lucky to have you in our world. Thank you.
Oh, it's such a great pleasure to be with. I so enjoyed talking to both of you, and the energy in this room is incredible. I feel much better now.
Do you?
Yeah, thank you. It's impressive living in the middle of London, and I know you do a lot of exercise and swimming.
And he does the swimming,
running, and everything. Yeah.
Do you know what I'd love to experience? You describe it as wilderness rapture.
Yes, yes.
Do you want to just talk a little bit about that?
Yeah, that's an incredible thing that, many people who in the early days visited indigenous people noticed that they had this incredible life force and energy. And then I met some of these San trackers in the Kalahari. You'd be walking along in pretty extreme conditions, thorns would be going in our feet and incredibly hot. And suddenly, this is a guy I'm thinking about, a bow hunter, Kwasi Klokne, and he'd suddenly burst out laughing and just laugh for no good reason, other than that was just in him. And if you spend enough time in nature, but understanding it at the deepest level, this rapture, this primal joy, that it just comes through. And if you think of how these early people, how they might have lived and their adventures. Sure, life was tough in some ways, but this primal joy, this wilderness rapture, just is running through many of the people in a very powerful way.
And we haven't got it all wrong, have we? Because put to the vote, they would be 50-50 on then and now.
Yeah, exactly. This is what they told me. But that is a very harsh environment, the Central Kalahari. So I wonder if you went further back in time to places like the Western Cape where I live, was it really abundant? I think some of their lives would have been, incredible.
The tour is over. The PR tour is over. You're free to go. How does it feel? It's all over.
Great. What a wonderful way to finish with you guys. What a high. Thank you so much.
Round of applause, please, for Craig and everything he does in Swati and the kelp forest and his dad and his mum and surviving the infernos and the rage of the ocean and the craziness of Hollywood and the Academy Awards and the Chard Award. Yes! Chard Award. Thank you, Craig.
So amazing to be with you guys, really.
Amphibious Soul, out now. It's a great book. Honestly, it's joyful.